About ADAPT 2030 Mini Ice Age Conversations covers changes in our climate due to a new and intensifying grand solar minimum. In the media, overlooking, downplaying, or burying cold weather changes occurring on our planet. This is in order to keep the global warming agenda steaming full speed ahead. I do this podcast and radio program because we need to begin conversations on how to adapt our food growing strategies long before 2030 as agricultural zones shift, affecting global crop output, but very few mainstream media outlets are talking about the most important issue of our time, cold weather crop losses. Our sun is going through a 400-year cycle, which has effects on our weather patterns as our magnetosphere weakens and the jet streams go out of flow. And before we get started today, this is in no way, shape, or form financial advice for anyone. This is how I see the future unfurling with the tokenization of global commodities and trying to bring you this information. And now, on with the interview. Walk me through, if I want to redeem the silver, let's say I have 10 ounces and I say I want those in my hand. How am I going to go about getting those?
Sure. So if you have the tokens in a wallet, and right now it's ERC20 compatible wallet on the Ethereum blockchain, you would first go to the LD2 coin.io website and you click on the redemption. What you're going to essentially do is you're going to pay for the shipping and handling and insurance to have it shipped to your address. That's the first step. Once the depository has received payment for the shipment, then you go ahead and you send the number of tokens that you said you wanted to redeem. You send those to the depository's wallet. Once you've done that, the depository matches up the order and knows that it was coming from your wallet address. It already sees, okay, you paid to have this shipped to you. And the depository at that time takes those tokens and does what's called a burn. It basically destroys those digital tokens and takes the silver out of the vault, boxes it up, and ships it to the address with tracking, with insurance, and it goes straight to your doorstep.
I'll add a small piece to that. As we described in the beginning, when you come to our site and you buy a token, you are buying the physical silver. So the silver purchase happens on the front end. And again, we give you the digital token as a warehouse receipt. The silver is purchased initially at the beginning of the transaction, and then those tokens are sent to your wallet. So when it comes to redemption, as Steve alluded to, all you're doing is paying for the shipping and handling and insurance to get that silver that you already owned sent to you directly. There's no additional cost besides the shipping and handling and insurance when you choose to redeem. Because the silver is already there, you're only providing the receipt to us and asking for it to be delivered.
And on top of that, the shipping insurance costs that we've got set up on the site, we went to great lengths to make sure that it's affordable. If you look at most of the bullion houses out there, and let's say that you've got a couple ounces that you want to redeem, maybe it's $30, $40 worth of silver, you can end up getting charged $30 to $40 in shipping and redemption fees from those bullion houses. So if you look at the prices and shipping and insurance that we have, it's very close. It's U.S. priority mail with tracking and insurance. So it's very close to the actual cost of what it takes to get it out of the vault and shipped. So we're not trying to soak people on the prices. We understand that it's their silver and they want easy access to it. And if we make it any harder for them to get their silver, it's going to cause problems. So we just want this as easy as possible for people to have vaulted, secure silver denoted on the blockchain, and they can trade it at will. No, there's no transaction fees. We hadn't brought that up before, but a lot of the other people who are touting silver-backed or gold-backed cryptocurrencies, they're adding like 3% transaction fees. So every time you move the silver to a different ERC20 wallet, there's a transaction fee. There's none of that with LD2. It's your silver, you move it however you want it. Whatever the transaction fees are just the gas that you provide to the Ethereum network to make the transaction happen, just like every other ERC20 transaction. And then when it comes down to redemption, you just pay reasonable shipping costs. That's it.
So these are transferable. Let's say I would like to give my sister a gift of some of the coins. I have the wallet address, and then I just send it over to her wallet. And that's for those of you who are just learning about cryptocurrency, the way the wallet addresses can be sent from one wallet to another, one person to another, swapping. So you're saying there's no fee involved in that. So if I was going to give this as a gift to somebody,
on the Ethereum network, there's going to be a transaction fee that's built into the network mining fees and things like that. Just for instance, if I was going to transfer, whether it be 1 ounce or all 10,000 ounces of the LD2 zero issuance, if I was going to transfer it directly to your account, right now it probably would cost like maybe 30 cents to do that transaction. None of that goes to LD2. That's all the Ethereum blockchain miners who are making the transaction happen. So it's not based on how much you're sending. It's just based on the transaction itself.
Those of you listening out there, if you're first time hearing about some of these tokenized commodities, you're learning about blockchain, you're learning about cryptocurrency, I highly encourage you to learn more about cryptocurrency, whether it be LD2 coin or Ethereum or whatever else is out there, because this truly is going to be the new medium of exchange moving forward through the next decades, plural. And also, as I say, every podcast that we're talking about blockchain technology and cryptocurrency, this is no way, shape, or form financial advice for anyone out there. We're just discussing the future, and I truly believe this is the future. Now, also another component of cryptocurrency is the instability in the price fluctuations, and this is what scares a lot of people. It's an opportunity for a lot of people, but traditional investors are scared to death of the fluctuations in the prices over, Bitcoin. You see it go from 6,000 to 9,000 and back down in 20 minutes. So a lot of people are really not willing to take those types of risks to hold on because they're so afraid of the price movements. Now, in your white paper, you're also talking about using silver and using what you're creating here with tokenized commodities with silver as a stable coin. And this is going to be really interesting. In my own personal questions, this is, for me, an incredibly interesting part because stable coins, I was involved with an ICO where we were going to offer and help people move over into something more stable than Tether. Because Tether, we just don't know what's out there. They won't allow auditing. It should be an incredibly simple audit, but it's just not happening. So what will happen with Tether in the future? Imagine if the U.S. government walks in and says all Tether is deemed zero value and anybody holding Tether lost everything. So we need something else that can keep the value as we move forward as in terms of stable coins. And you hear this phrase tossed all over the place. They've been talking about stable coins now for how many years? It really hasn't evolved. People are working on mechanisms to create a stable coin. But here in your white paper, you allude to using the silver here.
You alluded to Tether,
explain that a little more to us?
Which is largely considered to be the first stable coin, but as you also alluded to, that is somewhat of a dubious distinction because they can't pass an audit. They're not very transparent. There is no real assurance that there actually is $2.8 billion sitting in some bank account somewhere that backs up the 2.8 billion token that they have issued. While it introduced the concept of a stable coin as a cryptocurrency that you could get out of something that's more speculative like Bitcoin into something more secure without having to go to fiat, it really didn't go far enough in my opinion. So there's been other stable coins, quite a few that have been announced recently. Basis comes to mind after raising $133 million. Circle out of Boston is doing a stable coin after raising another $110 million. There's TrueUSD, there's Gemini Dollar, there's a whole bunch of those. Almost all of those, well, certainly all the ones that I mentioned, and most of the ones that are out there are actually backed by US dollars. They're either directly backed by US dollars or they're pegged to the US dollar price through some algorithm. But inherently, you're taking a fiat cryptocurrency and you're backing it with fiat currency. And so, in our opinion, that just doesn't suffice. That just doesn't make sense for a lot of monetary and economic reasons. When we describe LD2 as a stable coin, We rely more on the stability and depth and liquidity in the silver market, so that it's not as if we're basing this crypto on another unasset-backed currency or fiat currency, right? That's just shifting where the volatility comes from. Anybody who knows monetary policy or the history of the dollar knows that since the creation of the Federal Reserve, the US dollar has lost 98% of its purchasing power to inflation. And so backing up a crypto with an inherently inflationary currency just doesn't seem to solve the problem, is probably the most frank way to put it. By backing up the crypto with not only the silver price, but actually physical silver, we expect that there to be less volatility in that and far more security in it, because not only does it not put you in jeopardy of the same inflationary forces that the US dollar is subject to, but again, we have the auditing and we have the security to ensure that the silver is actually there. Stablecoin has kind of become somewhat of a misnomer in a lot of applications. Again, we don't feel that backing up a crypto with fiat is actually all that stable.
Yeah, understood. And that was a nice, smooth explanation there that people can understand easily, especially as we see this grand solar minimum intensifying, and you just know food prices are going to continue to rise, doubling and tripling over these next few years. And as the average consumer across the planet, and I don't care what country you're in, you eat every day. And as you start to divert all of that disposable spending over into the food economy, the regular economy, what we consider, the extras, the restaurants, the electronics, the cars, the vacations, the holidays, the travel, whatever it is, that is going to start to shrivel and dry up. And as we saw in 2009, what happened with that? And this is very well, in my opinion, going to be a repeat of that. But since we eat every day and there's no way to not eat, this is a game-changing reset button that we're sliding into over here in the next few years due to effects from our sun on this 400-year cycle. So just for people listening out there, I am curious. I have a crystal ball seeing how tokenizing commodities and this using of blockchain with buyer, seller, trader directly with assets behind it, true assets behind it. Just in your opinion, stake me out. What's your crystal ball? What do you see 5-10 years from now in the evolution and the expansion and the usage of commodities that are tokenized?
We certainly agree that the tokenization of assets is only going to, and commodities is only going to continue to ramp up. One of the things that Steve alluded to earlier was about centralization versus decentralization. And I think that having a system, especially a financial system, that is largely centralized and having your commodities held by one entity, a custodial, for example, is a weak point. I mean, that's purposefully why Bitcoin was designed to be decentralized, in order to allow that no one node or no one party in it is a weak point. I think that as that concept continues to be extrapolated out through different blockchain solutions, it only further strengthens the need for a tokenized solution where the assets may be held in one place, or the commodities may be held in various places, but purchasing of that and the sourcing of that is really global.
And you'll be able to find more information at LD2Coin.io. That is Lima Delta number 2 coin.io. You can find information about the vault itself, the white paper, the timeline for executions, and more about the LD2 Zero sale, as well as the physical redemption and physical ownership of the precious metals. Links are below in the description box, and I appreciate your time. Stephen, Extra, thanks so much for joining me.